Okay, nice.
How about yourself?
Yeah,
Florida.
Don's from Pittsburgh. There's a couple of famous YouTubers from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
We
Mr.
got
Bob
John Mangini's from Pittsburgh. Got Bob Lewis. Got a couple of YouTube Hall of Famers.
Jabs.
Jabs. Uh-oh.
He really is.
We already talked about Jabs. We're not even 1 minute
channel.
into this conversation.
I started watching his channel because I recognized all these places and flea markets he was going to. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then the more I watched, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm ashamed to see he's from my town.
Well, I mean, like, to be honest, I mean, probably all of us at some point in time stumble upon his channel. He's probably one of not the biggest channels out there. And he's doing sports cards. He has like tens of thousands of subscribers. So he's kind of like one of those introductory guys. But as soon as you watch a couple of videos, like you said, you realize you're like, hold on, wait, what?
Yeah.
Who is this guy? What's this guy about? So you kind of pick up on it. But, I'm not going to sit here and try to front like, my first couple months into the community, I watched him, off and on. And then I watched a couple of videos and I'm like, man, this guy, no, not for me, dude. He's
like I said in the beginning, it was like, oh, I know where that mall is. And okay, I know where that art shop is. And I didn't know about that one,
Right.
But then it was like, this guy's road tripping to other states and stuff. And then do his breaks and all that other stuff.
Yeah, he gives all you Pittsburgh people a bad name, dude.
Yeah, so we'll have to find him when you come into town.
Yeah, we'll go. We'll go and we'll light a bag of crap on his doorstep and let him come out and run out and step on it. So
right.
But hey, Ray. So did you hear that that we might be having some baseball in Florida here in about a few weeks? Did you get the rumor?
No.
Yeah, dude. Is the spring training happening in Florida?
Oh yeah, but I mean, there's still what Ari's going to say if they're putting out that 154 game schedule potentially, and it's going to be pushed back. So I don't know if that's going to affect spring training or not.
Oh, I guess that's true. Do you know they've agreed upon anything yet, or is it just still
in the works? I think.
Man, well, hopefully we'll get a decision on that. I guess because I mean, supposedly the pitchers and catchers are supposed to report here. What about 2 weeks?
Yes, supposed to.
So if that's correct, isn't it they're going to start what I guess in the end of April instead of the end of March? I guess is that what the idea is?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. I know that the Cactus League has asked them to hold off on doing spring training because they weren't ready in Arizona, so they said. So I didn't know. I kind of had a feeling that everything was ready to go, and here we are. We're like 2 steps forward and then 1 step back.
Right.
The Reds go to Florida for spring training, or do they go to Arizona?
They come to Florida, I believe.
The Reds.
Yeah. No, the Reds are in the Cactus League.
Oh, okay.
Now
they used to.
I think last year they were in Florida. I think because of all the COVID stuff. So I think they might have actually been there. But
right.
They used to be with the Florida for years, and then like I think about a decade ago they moved over to the Cactus League, which is weird because you would think they would go to Florida because it's much closer. Yeah. But I don't know. I was excited to see them play, and when I went down there a couple of years ago, that's when I realized they weren't actually playing in Florida. They were playing in Arizona. So Don, so growing up in Pittsburgh, what is your first memory of the Pirates?
The best memory was probably the '79 season, and that's when they won the World Series. So I didn't get into baseball until I was about 9 years old, which was like in '76. It all started, I was actually riding my bike across the street to the neighbor's house, and I wiped out, ripped my knee open, and she had to carry me home. And I think I told you the other day, I'm 6'5", and I was pretty big as a 9-year-old too. This lady trying to carry me home, and I had to get stitches, and she bought me a pack of baseball cards. And that kind of got me into baseball. But then, like the We Are family, and even a few years before it, we'd lose to the Phillies at the end of the season all the time. We were never in the playoffs. It was the Phillies every year. And then I just remember my dad letting me stay up for the 7th game of the World Series against the Orioles. Little did I know that would be the last time we were in the World Series.
Right.
Some years ago, or even sniffing. But,
so yeah, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. It's and it's tough. I mean, I'm still a Pirates fan, but I just can't give our owner my money right now. It's I get what we're doing this year, tearing it all down and rebuilding, but it's been like that for years. And around 13, 14, we had a good team. We only need one or two players, and we just won't spend the money. And, I'm not expecting us to be the Dodgers or Yankees out there. But geez, at some point, like, why am I going to give you your money or my money to go watch a minor league team? Basically, is what it's going to be this year. It might be different just because it's something to do, and I'd like to go to a game, so I might go. But I don't know. It's just it's tough rooting for a team that can never compete. At least with the Steelers and football, there's a salary cap, and it's like we've got a shot every year.
That's true. Hey Ray, I was gonna tell you we can hear your surroundings really loudly.
Okay. Sorry about that.
So no, it's okay. I just want to let you know because it's a little bit hard because I can hear TVs or something in the background and stuff. So.
Okay.
So, but yeah. So with that being said, so you said 79 is really when you remember a lot of it. But do you watch somebody else now that you're not really watching? Maybe not the Rays, not necessarily, because I know a lot of people in Pittsburgh watch Pittsburgh South, aka Tampa Bay Rays.
No, that's so that's one person in Pittsburgh. The rest of us don't follow that. But for a while, I was rooting for the Red Sox just because my father-in-law is a huge Red Sox fan. He's from New England originally. So in 2004 when they won for the first time, it was kind of cool. But, my heart wasn't in it. I tried being a fan of another team, but it was it's kind of fake. It's like I don't think you can make yourself like a team. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Especially if you've lived in the same city all your life like I have. Maybe if I moved somewhere else and it was on the news all the time and the other people around me were into it, I guess maybe that's different. But, I've never left here. So for me, there's just, there's certain players I like to watch. And when Mike Trout came here, my son was really into Mike Trout at the time. So it was cool. He had a Pirate shirt on and an Angels hat at the game.
Yeah.
That was fun, but he's not into that anymore. So,
yeah. And my son actually is the king of wearing one shirt of one team and then a hat of the other team to try to play both sides of the field. And he actually got called out one time by Trey Mancini with the Orioles, and then he got called out by Chris Archer there when he was with the Pirates, and about doing it, which I thought was hilarious. Right. And in a fun loving way, by the way, they were good spirit about it. But they're you're trying to cover all your bases, kid, huh? How you doing that? How you gonna come to me with a Cincinnati Reds hat and ask me for an autograph? Whatever like that. So it was pretty funny. Then my son's what do I say? He's starstruck and doesn't know. So, but yeah.
My son, he's 15 now, but he plays basketball, and he's a huge Cleveland Cavaliers fan. And Cleveland's only a 2-hour drive from here.
Sure.
And we don't have an NBA team. And so a couple Christmases ago, we took him out for a game, and he's always loved LeBron. So when LeBron got traded, or not traded, I guess he was a free agent, to the Lakers, I'm like, are you a Lakers fan? I was like, why would I be a Lakers fan? I like Cleveland. And I was like,
right.
Really? I'm like, I thought you'd be. I'm like, they stink now. He's like, I don't care. I was like, wow.
That says a lot, yeah. Because I don't know how Ray feels, because I know Florida has lots of different teams with lots of different sports and everything. But here in Indianapolis in particular, everybody was a Peyton Manning fan. Nobody was really a Colts fan. They were a Peyton Manning fan. So when Peyton Manning left and went to the Broncos, then all of a sudden people didn't even know that Indianapolis even had a football team. It was crazy, because you'd go to church on Sundays and everybody had Manning jerseys on and all this stuff. But then the following year when he left, it was all of a sudden there were Bronco jerseys and people couldn't find their Colts jerseys anymore. And I know you don't have that problem in Pittsburgh, but I don't know what about Florida? What about Florida, Ray? Do you see a lot of fair weather fans because you got so many teams and so many big players coming through Florida, or do you have a lot of people who are diehard fans of teams?
I think I have a little bit of both. I mean, you look at the Rays; they're constantly they don't seem like they don't put a lot of money into the organization, but they always seem to be there at the end of the year.
Sure.
Obviously they don't get the fan base, to fill up the seats, which is kind of disappointing. I wish they, had more devoted fans that would actually go to the games. But, you can get tickets for like $30. They just want to get people in there. Hopefully make money off the concessions and things like that. But
I would think in Florida you've got a lot of transplants and a lot of fans of all kinds of teams, don't you?
Yeah. I want to. There was some figure. I don't know if it was. I don't know, like 2 million people moved to Florida every 2 weeks or something like that.
2 weeks.
Yeah, it was something like that. I was like, holy, yeah, but yeah. I'm not originally from here, but I lived here for over 30 years, but yeah, the majority of people that you run into in Florida, they weren't raised or born here.
Right. Yeah, I think that's probably the case for like places like Florida, California. Most places, like I feel like they're not from there originally.
Texas, Nashville, all those places.
Right,
Arizona,
they're like transplants.
Yeah. But Jason, wasn't there a period where every baby in Indianapolis was either named Jalen or Peyton?
Was Jalen and what? Peyton? Yeah.
After Jalen.
And the crazy thing is, like Jalen and Peyton is one of those names where you could be either sex, you could be male or female.
Right.
And I used to work in the public school system. And like it's funny because down in southern Indiana, where I'm originally from, those names weren't as popular. When I moved up to central Indiana, where the Pacers were at and the Colts were at, those names were everywhere. Like when I was in the classroom, I'd have 3 Peytons and 4 Jalen's, and it was just crazy, And so yeah, that was way more common to see. But again, those names are kind of disappearing again because they left or they retired or whatnot. But yeah. Hey, what up, Reese? Thanks for popping in, hanging out with us a little bit today. There you go. Do you all know Reese's channel? Do you know?
I know Reese. Reese is a good guy.
Yeah, he's also a Pennsylvania guy like yourself.
Yeah, he's on the other end of the state. I'm on the west side. He's like in the northeast, I think.
Yeah, he's in the armpit of Pennsylvania, I think, if I remember correctly. Now, Ray, do you ever get out of Florida? I know right now with everything going on, you probably don't. And go check where you go back to your roots, your hometown area at all, or do you just pretty much never leave the state?
I don't leave the state very often. It was over 2 years ago. I'm originally from Kentucky, but lived down here for over 30 years, so I hadn't been back in over 15 years. But I went back a couple years ago, but I haven't been back since. I had made plans to go back, but then COVID hit, so we decided not to and change our plans. So. Don't
your
really
wife
leave
from Florida originally?
No, she's from the New England area.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So you guys are really transplants. You didn't have any real roots there at all, right?
No. That's like we have. My mom and dad passed away within a year of each other last year, so we were kind of thinking about it. And her mom passed away. Actually, her mom passed away. My mom and dad passed away all within a year of each other. And so it was like, yeah. So we had like nothing else to. Her mom sometimes would come down and just stay with us for months at a time just to help out with the kids or just do whatever, and because she lived by herself up in New England, so with the snow and everything she would come down and spend the winter with us and avoid all that mess. But kind of the point that we don't have anything keeping us here, so we were kicking around the idea of maybe moving, just trying to figure out where to, because
Indiana's nice this time of the year.
Yeah. Well, we were thinking maybe Georgia, but the value on homes is just so different. It's crazy. I would look at, there's some people I follow on Facebook, and they list all these different houses, and just the amount of house you can get in Georgia compared to here is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think I've said this before. I was talking to Raphael, who lives in Miami. And he was telling me that and I was also talking to Jonathan, who also is in Miami, and they would tell me that like if they sell their house, what they would make for that house because they own property, which is a huge deal in Miami. Yeah. And I told him, I'm like, if you sold your house for that money, you could buy a whole city block in Indiana. Yeah. I'm like, and I'm not even exaggerating. Like they could literally buy 3 or 4 houses, not even joking, in most parts of Indiana. Maybe like the ritzy areas of Indianapolis, probably, of course not. But most other places easily you can buy like a little city block. So Now, Don, are you a Pabst Blue Ribbon kind of guy there?
No, I
That's
have
what
no
John
idea what John's
Mangini
talking
said.
about there. And no, John, I haven't sent a package yet. That's about a month away. I'm working on something. No, I'm not.
But
I was I don't drink anymore, but when I did, I was an IPA guy.
IPA?
Yep. I like the nice heavy beers.
Yeah, well, I know I mentioned this probably one time before also.
He's from near Ligonier, or well, it's not even made there anymore, but it used to be.
What Rolling Rock you said?
Yeah. It's it used to be made in either, or maybe it was Latrobe, not Ligonier. John would know. He's originally from
Latrobe, yeah. But well, hey Ray, let me ask you, Ray. So you did a video about 2 weeks ago of like a lot of your Ichiro cards, and that was pretty epic. I hope you got a lot of good feedback on that. Are you doing anything like that for 2021, or do you have an idea of kind of what you might have up next on the docket on that?
I don't know. I've never done a video like that before. I've seen other people do it, wrap up the year, and I was really thought it was cool. Like wrapping up the end of the year, it's one of my favorite things to do. Just binge watch people, wrapping up their highlights of the pickup of the year, or their top 25, top 50, or whatever. So it's, I don't know. I debated about whether putting the prices on there. I didn't want it to be like a measuring contest, per se. It's just, for me, it was a good way for me to keep a record where I can reflect back, from year to year to see what those values are. But I mean, even I did, a couple of those videos for the top 10 cards in that video have sold. I did a video 3 weeks ago. 4 of the top 10 have sold since then, and those prices have already doubled on 4 of those cards.
I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can't explain it.
Now, but I mean, I'll just say, Don, I've been watching your channel, got caught up on your channel a lot. I mean, you're a relatively newer guy in the community, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
So
posting, I used to watch quite a bit, but right.
So you're like one of those guys that were like more like the peeping Tom in the community. You're like looking through the shades and looking at them, but you didn't really actually participate.
Exactly.
So
I didn't have the guts to do it. And then
right, but now you do. You got off the horse and rode it into the now. So
it is much easier. The worst part is, my daughter found out I was doing it. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna look you up." I'm like, "You'll never find my channel." She found it in like 30 seconds. I was like, "Oh, great!" I'm all embarrassed. Like I said earlier,
right.
my wife, you don't hang out with your baseball boys, and I'm like,
right.
"I am," as a matter of fact. But she was actually, "They're not half bad, Dad." Like.
Right.
When I make a video, I don't even look at it. I just post it. I'm like, because I'll critique it forever, and then it'll never get posted. And so if there's any errors or sayings or whatever, it's like, it is what it is. Still in the line.
Well, I think all of us. I mean, here's the thing. Our generation. All right, no problem. Our generation. If you think about it, like adult men would not put themselves in front of a camera and like talk about their hobby. Like it just wasn't like a thing that we grew up with. It's not something that we would understand or do, right? It's not something that so unless you're like on TV, like an MTV VJ, you did not put a camera on yourself and just like talk about your hobby or whatever. That was not a thing. So I think for a lot of our generation, I would say anybody from like in their like probably mid 30s and up, it wasn't an experience you had. And so it is intimidating when you see younger people doing it because it's not something you've ever done. We don't have any point of reference. We didn't grow up with it. We don't know the inner workings of it. And I still barely get by what I do. But I think once you realize that all of us start at the same place, we're kind of nervous. We don't really know what we're doing. You're hoping people like what you're doing. You feel like you can connect. Hopefully you can connect with a couple people. Then you start kind of letting all those other, concerns or embarrassment or whatever you might have kind of fall away, and you just focus on having those connections and building your channel with like just showing off what you do or whatever. So obviously you're talking about when you first started, you're a little bit embarrassed about your daughter, or like what people might think. Obviously you probably moved past that a little bit now, but where was it for you when you started getting some traction? You felt like it kind of got more comfortable.
it's amazing how fast people have been like, even some guys that are so-called like, big guys in the hobby that everyone knows, and John being one of them who's on here, Mangini, and a couple other guys who've commented and said, wow, I really like your stuff. And I was like, really? Like, I've got this cheesy little table with a green felt, and and that was the change too, from not showing my face to showing my face, because I was like, oh man, like I just don't want to see how this is. So I can't say I'm super comfortable, but having people who I genuinely feel like get something out of it, there were a couple of things. First, I was nervous about doing it, and actually I was on, I don't even remember who all was on it except for Eric from those back pages, and I said, I would love to converse with you guys, about baseball cards, and there's no one around me that has an interest in it. And he finally said, he's like, if you have a cell phone in a box, just put it on and start talking. Don't show your face, if you're not comfortable. And then I also felt, I'm like, I've got some pretty nice cards, but I don't have anything nobody's ever seen before. It's like, who cares about seeing these cards again? But then I found, you make it interesting, I just did one outside yesterday or 2 days ago, smoking a cigar.
I know.
Around, freezing my butt off. It was just like, all right, there's maybe an aspect. And even though I've seen, and I agree with that, I've seen cards before and people have shown them again, but there's a cool story behind it, or why they got it, or how they got it. That, we all just love the hobby. So, I got over that. That's kind of what made me feel more comfortable, that people are interested in what you're saying.
And I think Ray's been around a while. I think probably Ray and I've been around the same amount of time, or close to it, it feels like. Cause I feel like Ray's one of those guys I found pretty quickly, or vice versa. But I know that for Ray, on his channel, you never see Ray's face. Like, the only time you ever see it really is right now when we do these live streams. I've seen Ray more in the last month doing live streams than I have in his entire 2.5, 3 years. I think he's been on YouTube. And so, but to Don's point, Ray, would you agree that like your channel's very focused? Now, you've done other stuff, but I feel like you've probably been able to connect with people who maybe are not a big Ichiro collector, but you're able to connect with people because you're a super collector. So you can come at it from a different perspective. Somebody might be collecting a Mike Trout or a Ricky Henderson or whatever, but you all can connect being super collectors. So there is that connection you're having with other people. Like Don was saying, like, I have all the same cards these other guys do, but it's the connections you're building and the relationships you can share. And then when you talk about the cards, people can appreciate that.
Yeah. One of the biggest things, like Eric says, share your knowledge. And that's what I try to do. We all can't know everything. It's impossible.
What's that, Mike?
What's going on?
I learn something new all the time, and that's one of my favorite things to do, is to learn. So, I run across cards that, maybe I know something about, and a lot of people might know, they might not. So I try to provide that information. So, other people say, oh, I didn't know about this, I didn't know about that. So anytime you can do that, I think it's just great for everybody in the hobby.
I completely agree. And I don't know if you all, I don't know if Don, Mike, but Mike White, he's a guy out of Los Angeles, or out of California. He's a big Dodger fan. He Los Angeles Lakers, as you can see with his hat and all that stuff. So he's definitely not a bandwagon guy. Like, he's been a fan for a long, long time. So, but Mike, the one thing Mike does with his channel, which I really like, is, he is very different. He mixes up football, he'll mix up basketball, he'll mix up baseball. Sometimes he'll even shave on camera while you're like watching him like possibly cut an artery and bleed out live on camera right there. And you're thinking like, man, do I need to call 911 if he hits the floor? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, but what do you, Mike? I don't know if you caught what we were saying earlier, but I kind of like asking, when you first started doing videos, where were you at first? Like, getting over, like, maybe getting nervous or embarrassed to be on camera or to do a video, to where you got a little bit more comfortable to kind of just be like, because obviously, for crying out loud, you're shaving on camera now. So obviously you've moved past overtly nervous, but how did you get there?
I actually made a YouTube channel or account years ago. I think I was looking it up recently, 2012, and some of the stuff was on YouTube back then. I was like super weird and never did anything with it. And was actually looking for a cheaper way to start shaving because those cartridge razors still now are outrageously expensive. So I started looking up some of these old school ways of shaving, the straight razors and those double-edged razors and all that, and started following some of those guys. And was actually at home. I actually sprained my ankle pretty bad at home, and I was off work for about a month before I could go back to work. And got back into card collecting, not really a whole lot, but I figured I'd started collecting. Back in the day when you're younger in college and don't have any money, teenager, and you're living at home in high school and all that, and started looking up what other people were collecting, and figured I'm gonna start doing some stuff and pulling some of the cards I end up picking up, and then I figured some of these other guys I kind of go back and forth between card collecting and these guys that shave like straight razors and all that. So I figured I'm gonna incorporate both of them. So that's why I figured I'm gonna start doing both of these. I haven't done one of those in a while though, but that's why I got back into or started making YouTube videos just for the cards and the shaving type thing. Kind of a weird thing, but I'm doing something different. So
right. You're not seeing that anywhere else, that's for sure, guys. I mean, like when the first time he did that, I don't know, maybe that was about a year ago. I don't even know when you started that. And I remember thinking, like, is this like a one-time thing or what? Because you're just looking in the mirror and have the camera positioned right here while you're shaving, and you're getting really close with that shave, and you're talking about, whatever's happening with your dodges or whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's gonna cut himself right here. It's gonna be like Candyman or like Freddy Krueger or something. You'll be like bleeding all over the camera thing. So it was definitely something different. So that's awesome. So let me ask you, Don. So I know you said for you there hasn't been a lot of guys that you were aware of around you that were like collectors like yourself.
Right.
But as we talked about at the beginning of the conversation, there's Bob's there. There's I think there is Wicked Discount Cards. At least he used to be. He's out in the Pittsburgh area.
I don't know.
There's a couple guys in Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, in Philadelphia. Do you go to card shows or shops or something in Pittsburgh before all this stuff happened with COVID? What's been your experience as far as a collector? Like, do you go mostly retail? Do you try to buy hobby? Do you just worry about singles? Like, how do you usually collect?
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly singles. I very rarely rip wax. I buy a pack or two just for the fun of it.
Sure.
I don't understand modern, to be honest. I'm starting to get it, but I'm like parallels and relics and refractors. I'm like, I don't even know what the hell that means. It's like
I can't even spell it.
Yeah, I'm like, rainbows and one of one. Obviously I know what that is, but
what is this 101? I don't get it.
It was almost intimidating. Like, there's so much stuff.
Sure.
Where if I want a 1965 Clemente, there's one to buy, right?
Sure.
I've kind of come and gone in this hobby a few times, and just really, I'm one of those people because of COVID got back into it. I sold my collection at one point around 08, 09 because I lost my job.
Right.
And just needed the money. And I've gotten most of those cards back. But like you said, a couple of those cards I bought raw. There was a Mickey Mantle, 57 that I bought at this card shop that I used to go to all the time. And it was kind of cool that I got it slabbed. It was the first card I ever got slabbed. And even if I got another slab mantle, I don't know, there's something about that one that there's a story behind it. It's funny. I watched Jimmy Guns for the first time about a week ago, and he's with Bob Lewis. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at this card shop. I'm like, this dude from Oregon is a mile up the street from me in a card shop. So I was actually in there the other day, just looking for some cheap stuff. But most of my vintage comes from eBay.
You're right.
99% of it probably. That's one thing, like I said about John Mangini. Like, I saved my cards as a kid. My cards have so many creases. They have my initials on the back, so my brother wouldn't take them from me. And I saved these cards. They're going to be worth a lot. They're not worth anything now, It's like I used to play games with them. And like I had said in a video, all I cared about were Pittsburgh Pirates. So if I had a Hank Aaron or Carl Yastrzemski, I would trade that in a heartbeat for a common Pirate because it's just how it was. But
Sure.
I haven't been to a card show in ages, and I was surprised because my wife actually was like, "You should go to one of those nationals," and I was like, "Can't believe she actually said that."
Oh, she just opened that Pandora's box, Don.
I know.
You don't know what she asked for.
Too, though. Mainly, I think I'd like to go to meet everyone in person. That seems like more fun than obviously the cards are fun and enjoy getting that stuff. But I think it'd be really cool to see some people getting low back.
So, yeah, I agree. I think it'll be fun. I'm hoping California, Chicago will get it together and we'll be able to do it this year. But I want to ask you, Ray, as we kind of go around the horn here. I could be wrong, but you definitely are not on your channel opening up wax and packs and stuff like that. You're pretty showing like you're focused on Ichiro in particular. But to Don's point, for us older collectors that kind of maybe have been out of the game a while, and we kind of grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s with like Topps Don Rust and Fleer basically, and then Upper Deck a little bit later. And then for you, because you're a super collector of Ichiro. And you probably had like a learning curve, didn't you, to like learn about refractors and rainbows and short prints and super short prints and international cards and cards that were released for beverage only and food only. Like where did you kind of go, or where did you kind of like get your information from? Because that stuff's not readily available. I don't think it's not like you can open up a Beckett and go, oh, here's Ichiro's whole list of cards and every kind of issue. I mean, you've delivered all kinds of information on your channel about cards that like most people will never even probably come across, quite frankly. So how do you keep it from being overwhelmed by so much?
It is overwhelming, but I love the chase, for all the parallels, all the colors and things like that. But in a way, I'm glad, after 2020, I'm not collecting any more of his stuff past 2020. I'll go back and fill in gaps and holes of cards I'm missing. But Topps is going to keep rolling his stuff out for years.
Sure.
And I'm not going to follow that road. I've been extremely happy and fortunate for what I've got. So, but it's one of those things. Every time a set would come out, I would just look at a checklist, and for the most part, they're consistent with the colors that come out every year. So. It's not all. If you've been doing it, I've been collecting for over 10 years now, so it's not. They haven't changed dramatically from year to year, so it hasn't been that hard to keep up with, unless they introduce a new set, and then you got to kind of learn that a little bit. But for the most part, it hasn't been that difficult.
Ray, how did you become such a big fan? I'm sorry, Jason.
No, go ahead, Dom.
I was just curious. You said you're from Kentucky and live in Florida now. How did you become such an Ichiro fan? I thought maybe you were originally from Washington.
No, it's funny. I get asked that question all the time. I've been collecting since '87, so I've been collecting for a long time. So I got sets and and things like that from way back when, and cards I picked up throughout the years. I took breaks here and there. I think like a lot of people did. But 2010, I got back into it. And then, though, I started buying wax and cases. And, the Strasbourg Superfractor sold for like $25,000. And that just blew my mind. So I was like, man, I'd pull a card like that. So it put me back.
Mike bought that one.
What's that?
I said Mike White bought that Strasbourg for $25K.
But that drew my attention. But then you realize you're throwing money away if you're buying wax. For me, I mean, it's so much easier if you want a card, just go out and buy that card, because the chance of you pulling that card from a pack or a box, if it's a rare one, it's not going to happen. I mean, 99% of the time. And so I sat there, looked at all the cards I had. I'm a group of Braves fan. I'm a Braves fan from the Russ Nixon days when you used to be able to watch Braves games on TBS all the time. So that's kind of dating myself. But I looked at all these different cards, all these different players, but really no focus. So I got to the point where I didn't want to necessarily collect a team, because I wanted to think about space. And if I start collecting every player from that team, I mean, there's no end. So I was like, let me select just a player And at that time, 2010, I sat there and I had probably like 40 cards of different players I liked and enjoyed watching. One of them was Ichiro. And if I was going to go as crazy as had planned on, I wanted a player that was a good player, didn't have any problems on and off the field. He took great care of his body. He kind of embodied everything that you would think of a Major League Baseball player being. Total respect for the game, his players around him. I mean, nothing's ever been, said bad about him. So I always respected the way he played the game hard. I mean, he was, defense, he runs, these little slap hits, just he kept everybody on their heels. I mean, there was so much pressure on the fielders when he was at bat, and I've never seen nobody else do that. And before him, my favorite player was Tony Gwynn. So those two with the hits, they didn't have the home runs, but I appreciate, the small ball that he played. And so I was like, he's had a lengthy career. Again, he could have had some catastrophic injury and would have cut his career short and maybe not hit 3,000. But I wanted to go for somebody that, had all those attributes and also had a chance to get 3,000 hits and would possibly make the Hall of Fame. And I chose him.
In my opinion, that was a great choice, but I'm also biased. So,
right.
so
that's like I don't know if you guys know John Wade Boggs fan. You ever watch his channel?
Yeah.
It is what it sounds like. He collects Wade Boggs memorabilia and cards. You should check out his channel. First of all, he's very good, but the room behind him is amazing.
Yeah.
And he lives here in Pennsylvania. He's in the central part of the state. And his mom was a Red Sox fan, and it was same thing as you, Ray. It was kind of like, I'm just going to pick a player that I think is good and I want to collect. And, it wasn't like he had been a fan of Wade Boggs all his life. And he's got an amazing collection. But it's more amazing just to see the room behind him. It's insane.
Yeah, it's awesome. But it's funny, Don. Like people will reach out to me like through Instagram or whatever. They're like, "Oh, you live in Washington?" I'm like, "No, I live in Florida." Like, "Oh, where are you from?" Kentucky. They're like, there's no connection, I'm like, it's a long story.
You're like, you see where Washington is on the map? I'm on the exact farthest side I can be in America.
Right.
On the other end. So let me ask you this, Mike. We're talking about, Don's in Pittsburgh, so it's like it kind of goes without saying. And then you have, Ray talks about growing up in Kentucky and having that connection with Atlanta, Georgia, with the Braves, because that's what he grew up with on TBS, whatever. You're in California. You're surrounded by multiple different baseball teams. You could kind of pick from. You got Oakland A's, San Francisco Giants, the California / Los Angeles, Angels. You have a lot of. So, what got you interested in the Dodgers over the other teams or whatnot, or another team that's even in the area that might not be necessarily in Los Angeles? What brought you closer to them?
I'm actually closer to Anaheim than I am to LA.
Right, but I'm talking about as a fan, as a supporter.
It's probably just going to the games with the family. I think my dad was a Dodger fan. Couldn't even tell you who they were playing. I just remember hanging out at Dodger Stadium in the 80s and watching them play. And Fernando Mania back in 81. I'm old enough to remember Fernando Valenzuela, and it's anything anybody ever thought about. It came out of nowhere, and I think it was 19 years old when he started pitching and talking to the talent. It's the only thing anybody would ever talk about. So, it's back when Dodger games were free on TV, back before you had to pay for cable. You could watch pretty much every game on local TV. And just as a kid, my dad just watching Dodger games, hanging out with brother and my dad watching the Dodger game. Same thing with the Lakers and all that. And I didn't start following hockey until it was big news that Wayne Gretzky got traded to the Kings, and kind of came out of nowhere. And once I heard that, I figured I'm going to start watching hockey just to figure out what it's about. But it's just because it was back in the day. That's when that was all that was on TV. I mean, I know the Angels were there, but you hardly ever saw Angel games locally here in Southern California. So, I'm far north. I'm actually, 50 miles, something like that from LA. Maybe I never saw the Padres. It's only been in town playing the Dodgers. But Just because I'm in LA market, that's all I saw is LA teams.
So I have to ask you this to kind of piggyback. You said you were able to experience as a teenager Fernando Mania. So compare Fernando Mania to Nomo Mania. What was bigger, and what do you felt like had maybe a longer lasting impact?
That's a good question, man. I don't know. I honestly, it's probably people still remember Nomo fondly, but it's I don't know. It's a good question. Both, really. But I guess if I had to pick between the two, everybody walking around LA, Ronaldo doesn't have to say anything. People know who he is, and I don't know what happened to Hideo Nomo. Did he go back to Japan? I'm assuming. I don't know. I don't see him out in LA too often anymore.
Yeah, I'm sure he's back in Japan.
Even now, Fernando's still doing Dodger games in Spanish. So,
that's cool. Yeah,
that's cool.
You know, so he's been there. I don't know, probably since the early 2000s, I guess.
So that's a good question, Mike. For somebody like yourself, how many people did you grow up with trying to throw the baseball like Fernando Valenzuela or maybe Nomo later because you guys saw them on a regular basis? Because they have such unique approaches to pitching.
Yeah, and another one was Oral Hershiser back in '88.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Especially it's kind of don't hear too much about him. These because of that, and even in LA, the only thing people ever think about is the 1988 World Series. It's that Kirk Gibson home run.
Yeah,
and Fernando was there, but I think he was hurt most of the season, fortunately. So there's another one that people kind of talk about.
And then you had Tommy Lasorda come running out of the dugout like this, like running across, like that, like a little penguin walking around, wobbling out of there. So yeah, oh my, that's good, man. So hey Don, so where do you see your channel going now? Like I said, you're still relatively out of the four of us. You're a relatively newer channel, so. I mean, I think I've been enjoying like the cigar thing. Like I said, I enjoy the vintage you're showing off. Right. You're not quite shaving yet, like Mike. I mean, you'll get there eventually, but
yeah. I don't really have.
What are some of the ideas you think you like to go with your channel? Like, what do you look forward to doing or showing us?
I have a list of about 12 videos to make, and I always think, where am I going to come up with something like this? Cigar thing, I was going out there to have a cigar anyways, so it was like, what the heck. So I have a plan on one on the twins tomorrow. It's because my twins are turning 19 tomorrow.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
I believe one of them's watching this right now because she just texted me that my screen went black a few minutes ago. So I'm gonna tie some twins cards into that tomorrow. I don't really have any goals. My honest goal was I wanted to meet some people and talk about my passion and hobby. I have a hard enough time already. I try commenting back on everyone. I only have 61 followers. I've only been doing this since the beginning of December. Like, I can't imagine having 2,000 followers and trying to keep up with it all. And it's there's actually a nice group that I've already met that if I don't meet anyone else, that's fine. I mean, yeah, it'd be nice more people see my channel, but I'm just having fun with it. And, being on here tonight, I didn't know you 8 weeks ago or anyone on here. So it's just, it's
as long
nice.
as you were thinking about baseball cards.
What's that?
John, as long as you were thinking about baseball cards, we're all right. We're okay.
Right. Yeah, you missed. Oh, Don must have hit the wrong button. I was gonna say, yeah, some of you all might be probably solid, but John Mangini said, "Don't take this the wrong way, guys." But I've been listening to you all guys in the shower. You know, if anybody remembers the movie American Beauty with Kevin Spacey, we remember what he was doing in the shower in the morning. I'm just throwing it out there, John. Exactly. Kevin Spacey in the shower. I remember that scene. It traumatized me in like 1999 when I watched it.
That was a great movie.
Thanks for that image. But I mean, here, Don's back. Here, let's see here. Once Don saw that John Mangini was in the shower watching our videos, he jumped ship. He was like, I can't be associated with that guy.
You can tell this is the first time I've ever done this. I'm hitting buttons and knocking myself out. I was like,
it's okay.
And now
let me ask you all. Let me ask you all this, because I think it's kind of like for everybody, but I kind of like to know what you all thought. You think, like, what do you appreciate the most when somebody comes to your channel? It could be a guy that's been around for a while. It could be like the first time visitor. Like, what do you appreciate the most from a YouTube watcher? Like, what do you appreciate? What do you get most from somebody who comments on your videos? What's the best thing about doing your channel, I guess, and the communication you get from the different people in the community?
People leaving comments. I mean, I find so many channels from people leaving comments that, you know, it's I wouldn't have any idea about their channel if they hadn't have to comment either on my channel or somebody else's channel. So that's I think a good thing for me. I like seeing what other people collect. So that's a good way for people to see what other people are collecting too. And hey, that's a cool card. Maybe I'll go pick that up.
I think so. What about you, Ray?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, I'm bad. I mean, I'll watch people's videos and a lot of times I don't comment. You know, I've been trying to do better at that. And, you know, it doesn't take long to just, you know, leave like a one sentence little thing. So, you know, people take time to do that, watch a video. You know, I try to keep my videos under 10 minutes if possible. You know, I know people don't like watching long videos, but I don't mind it. You know, sometimes I just like to binge watch. But if they take the time out just to leave a comment, you know, that I appreciate that a ton. You know, and if they say they picked up something or they learned something from the video I did, that, you know, that's what I want to provide for people. You know.
Yeah.
What about you, Don?
I'm still amazed that people find anything I'm doing interesting, to be honest. I was like I said earlier, like, really, you know, I've got my little cheesy setup over here. Like, I'd love to learn how to edit. I've got some good ideas, but I have no clue how to do any of that. You know, I'm sure there's software and things, you know, that I could do. But I've just really excited at how people have accepted me, you know, and said nice things and encouraged me, and, you know, hey, I like your channel, keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, yeah, it makes you feel good. I mean, people are lying. I put up a video and I'm sitting there like, okay, when's someone gonna watch it? Any comments? Yeah, I do. I bet everyone else does too. You know,
sure.
It's like, oh, okay, cool. So people actually looked at this thing.
Yeah, without a doubt. Oh my gosh, you guys!
People shouting me out, and I'm like,
right.
You know, John and Jeannie did a video, and first thing I saw was a big mug of me on it. I was like, what the?
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't expecting.
Just be happy, Don, you didn't get hit with one of his nunchucks.
Yes.
Oh, we are being graced with royalty today, guys. Everybody, Mike, you all don't know this, but Michael, right before he got into the live stream, I actually saw him take off his crown and put it over to the side. So he didn't actually have it in camera because it'd be too much for all of us to handle. But it is none other than YouTube legend and YouTube Hall of Famer class of 18, I think. You're the first year. Mike,
whenever it began, whenever that I don't even have words to describe it anymore.
It's been
such a roller coaster ride on ups and downs
right.
Year after year.
So this is actually a great question for you, Mike, because you've been around, I'm assuming, longer than all of us probably put together or close to it. And you obviously started out with 0 subscribers at one point in time. now you're at like 6,000 or something crazy. I don't even know. I don't even think in Indiana we can count that high. You have so many subscribers. So, where did you first have that experience as a new channel that you were finding an audience? Because we were talking to Don. Don started doing this in December. He's at 60 subscribers. I think that's pretty good for being on YouTube for just 1 month, and you're already at 60 subs. But for somebody like you, who kind of was one of the first guys out of the gate, like, when did you feel like you were kind of, getting your groove and getting a connection with people and kind of like thinking like, oh, this could be a thing. Like I'm getting something from this.
I mean, I think I started out just doing like the TTM stuff. So the TTM
Right.
crew, I mean, right now it doesn't feel like there's a million people doing it. There's definitely, I mean, I haven't really seeked out new TTMers, but back then, they all just kind of supported each other, and then, meeting some other people. Mr. Wesker Griff, I know he
Right.
was shouting me out a little bit and stuff like that, but I really don't remember like how quickly subscribers started to build up and such. But I know when you hit that first 100, you're kind of, it feels like, oh wow, like it's pretty cool, and then it just kind of goes from there. But as it gets rolling, it typically will grow pretty decently. Of course, nowadays, in the 2020, 2021 baseball card boom / YouTube boom, there's so many people making videos now. I guess there's more people to promote each other, but there's so many corporate style channels now that aren't necessarily community driven, that it's certainly a little different now, for sure. We can't all afford teams of people, to produce our videos and edit our videos and, list our stuff on eBay and all this stuff that's going on. So,
well, after this video, guys, I'm going to send you all a contract. I'm going to have you all sign so you all can help me put a team of 2 people together. So that'll be coming in your emails here shortly. But let me ask you, Mike, again, Michael, real quick, just to kind of get caught up. For you, because I know you've told me both publicly and privately, like, it's a blessing and a curse to have the kind of following you have, and you kind of feel like you're spread thin because you can't comment on everybody's channel, you can't comment on every comment you receive. It's literally impossible, because I mean, you have a job, you have a life, you can't just sit in front of your YouTube and just comment back every day and like watch dozens and dozens of videos. It's just not realistic with the type of channel you have. But when you do have time to sit down and watch stuff and just kind of like let the day wash over you, what do you find yourself mostly watching and appreciating? Because like you said, there's so much stuff out there, maybe more now than ever. So what do you find yourself enjoying?
Unfortunately, Zombie Collector is just constantly putting out content that, it doesn't leave me time to watch anyone else anymore. So I got to watch Zombie Collector 24 hours a day.
Right.
No, I mean, I think it depends. I just bounce around different stuff. Like for a while, I'd be watching box breaks and stuff. Right now, it's so hard to be able to open anything like just for fun that I haven't watched a ton of it, but it just depends. Sometimes you're into the grading stuff and you're checking out a bunch of grading videos, then I used to actually kind of enjoy the some of the like Filmington and some of these guys putting out videos where they would mention and talk about sort of investing, but not necessarily investing, just kind of like the analysis. But now there's just so many people out there going, oh, here's the, buy Michael Jordan, like, no shit. Like, it's like with stuff like that I'm not really getting into that much anymore, but
right.
Lately I've been into just people showing off their personal collection stuff, showing off, whatever. So it's always changing what I'm into at any given time. And I watch the stuff as much as possible. I mean, I love actually longer format videos, putting them on while you're sorting cards or going through cards. So you don't have 10 3-minute videos going. You might watch a 30-minute video, and definitely great for today's cars, we can just plug the phone in and listen through the speakers to videos, because not every video, I'm not going to watch a showcase where I need to see every card while I'm driving, but I'll listen to people's thoughts, and even live chats and stuff like this is great. So
And I was going to say, I know Don mentioned this earlier, and I think all of us can agree to this because sometimes you think, well, I'm showing cards that everybody's shown before. Like I'm not showing anything that somebody else would have not shown on their channel before. So you might get a little at one point in time a little self-conscious. But I think we said this before, I've said it before, that it's really sometimes about the presentation or about the person behind showing the card. Like, what else are you showing with the card? Are you able to speak to the card and talk about the card or the player or the team or the experience, and like your connection with that? I mean, Mike O, he's a Phillies guy. And, I think one of the cool thing is with Mike's channel and Don's channel and, Ray and Mike Wyatt, that you sometimes will show cards that nobody else will probably know much about, like a random player in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, but you're able to talk a little bit about it, something that I wouldn't know. Like, Mike O talks about like an experience he had in like 1992 at a Philadelphia game or something with his dad. And it's like, do I care about Darren Dalton really? No, I don't, or whatever. But it's cool to hear that story. Like, you were saying earlier, Don, you're like, I love the 79 Pirates, I was alive in 79, I was 2, but you're able to talk about it and, share experiences that I would never have, but I can appreciate you showing off a Pirates guy from that time frame. So I think a lot of times you don't really understand like the kind of connection you might be building with people. I mean, like again, Mike O's a perfect example of this. Is like obviously people hated what Mike was doing. He would not be this successful and done this long. People connect with you and what you're doing, and I think that's the best part of this community is that you can learn from one another. And you have some people that do the breakers, and then they don't really add a lot into the community. They just show you the new product, which is fine. Then you have people like some of us, I think, that try to do a little bit more than just showing a random card in a pack and just moving on.
Well, I think what helps, like Mike, I've watched your channel many times, and with Jason, like I'm pretty much all vintage. Where you're showing TTMs, you're showing vintage, you're showing modern, you're doing wax breaks, Jason, you're doing wrestling. So maybe that attracts more people, but like I'm not going to watch Jason's wrestling videos. It's just not my thing. Wax breaks is not my thing, so I'm not going to watch that, Mike. But yet I'll come back.
I'm losing you, Don. I'm losing you. You said you don't watch me. Oh no, sorry. No, I'm just kidding.
Bye.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool that there's some flexibility with your channels that you attract different types of people to it. And that's the beauty. And, sorry, Ray and Mike, Mike Y, I'm sorry, I haven't seen any of your videos, but it's just, I think that's what helps bring people in too. And like for me, I'm finding the people that are joining my group are people that I have an interest in, or joining my channel, not my group. Like you said, Mike, I have no interest in watching the big business investing stuff because I'm not an investor, I'm a collector. So it's just, there's no reason for me to watch it. It's not my thing.
Right.
Pack breaks, I don't break a lot of wax. It's great if someone else likes it, but it's just, I'm finding that people that have common interests as me, it's who ends up joining your channel, which makes sense.
Well, what about Mike? Let me ask you, Mike, why? I asked Ray this too. I think it's one of those things, and I know, Mike O's already mentioned this before in his channels, and if you talk to Mike, you kind of know this. But it's okay sometimes to not like everything and just to watch what you want to watch. Like I think sometimes we put unnecessary pressure on ourselves to watch everybody's channel that watches you and watch every single thing they do, but it's just impossible. It's okay to watch what you like and skip the things you don't like. Wouldn't you say that's fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No,
go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, obviously you don't have a choice anymore. There's just too many channels out there. There's only, each and every one of us only has 24 hours in a day. You can't do it even if you wanted to watch stuff 24 hours a day. You couldn't do it. So you kind of are forced, especially now that the communities continue to grow and grow and grow, you're forced to really just pick and choose more and more often. And I mean, the watch later thing, like, that's my favorite feature. I mean, I hammer that thing so hard at any given time. There's got to be 1,500 videos in there. So
1500.
when you see me commenting on the video you did a year and a half ago, I'm sorry it got buried in there, but I'll get to it at some point. But
Yeah.
Mike Wise' turn.
Yeah, I think that I'll try to watch stuff, but I might not always comment on everything. Like I've done the same thing with like Mike's done. Just put something and watch later, and I'll actually take them to watch it, but I don't always comment on everything as much as I should. But yeah, like I said, I think it was Jason watched some video I did like a year and a half ago, which I just like recently finally got around to responding to. Didn't even know they even have to comment until somebody else commented, and oh, oops. So yeah, it's just try to watch stuff later on and not always comment. So if I'm driving or whatever.
I mean, the comments get tough, especially with the ability now.
Yeah.
Like, to watch things with the mobile phone is great, but if you're out somewhere, you might not get to comment. And I mean, I know for me, like, I should and would like to respond to more comments that people post for me. I read every single one. I still, for some reason, still get the email notifications from YouTube, so I'll read them in there. And I actually have a tab open that's perpetually open that I'll refresh and I'll go through and I'll leave like 20 responses to comments. But it's like, it feels like you're trying to. It's like you're in quicksand. It's impossible.
It's like a drop. It's like a drop in the ocean, like a drop of water in the ocean. It's like you can't keep up.
Yeah.
Whatever. So what about you, Ray? I mean, I'm sure you've got to a point now too. I mean, because you have a very specialized channel, and I'm sure people will leave you messages or whatever. But like you said, I mean, you're a husband, you're a father, you're busy taking care of, your normal life. I mean, I think we all get to the point that you can't watch everybody's stuff, and you just have to get to a point where you're like, it's okay. Like, I can't do it. I'm not gonna feel bad about it. I just got to move on, and like people just have to understand that. I mean, would you say that's about a fair assessment?
Yeah, I looked the other day. There was like 130 some channels I'm subscribed to, and it's just like it gets overwhelming. Like you said, you feel like you should give these people some attention just a little bit and watch something here and there, but it's like, man, it's to the point where I'm so backed up that everybody has multiple videos on every channel. So it's like, I mean, where do you even start? But
Right.
it's difficult. Also, I want to give a shout out to Victor Negron. It's in the chat there. He's the one that got me into making videos on YouTube.
Yeah,
I was a watcher, and this and that, but I was on all the social media platforms, and then I commented on Victor's channels, and then he kind of was like, why don't you do videos? And I was like, well, I don't know. And then he kind of gave me some little tips to get started, and then it just kind of took off from there. So he's a good guy. He's been around for a long time.
Victor's the man. Shout out to Victor.
Yeah, Victor is. I mean, even though he collects Benito Santiago cards and other Puerto Rican players, he's still a good guy.
Benito Santiago, former Philly, had one season with the Phillies, hit 30 home runs that year, was probably on steroids, but whatever. And met him at the National a few years ago and got a couple cards signed. So
Nice.
Yeah, he played for the Cincinnati Reds as well. He made his way around the league there for quite a few years, hitting up as many teams as he could along the way. So I know that Don, you mentioned those back pages kind of got you into doing videos. Is that correct?
Right. Correct.
And then what about you, Mike? Why? Who was a guy or guys that kind of got you to get in front of the camera? Or was there a guy? Maybe there was.
No, I was mentioning earlier about trying to looking for a cheaper way to shave and looking at like straight razors and all that. So I actually started meeting back before this COVID stuff was going on. I was actually going to some of these meetups that they would do meetups in Southern California, and there's a guy probably about 50 miles from me that does the shaving stuff that was actually trying to get me into it. So it was actually somebody in a different community that I follow, not really a card guy that did. So That's why I started to figure out I'm going to do both.
I mean, only Mike Y will you be able to you do a card shaving video and show Kobe Bryant's. I mean, it's unheard of. So you see a Kobe Bryant rookie card, and you might see a close shave all within a 45-second period of time.
Yeah, if you see me, hold on.
What about you? What about you, Mike?
That's what we're doing.
Oh, what about you, Mike? I mean, you mentioned Ed, I think a little bit, but was Ed one of the main guys? Was there other guys you kind of watched early on that kind of got you motivated to start doing videos?
I mean, when I started doing videos, my first few videos were TTM videos. So it was some of the early TTM guys. I remember TTM, or the Autograph Network, old school YouTuber. So he was one of the guys I remember just like bombing through like 200 videos of his. You know, their TTM videos are generally 2-3 minutes. Him and Ed and a few others. I remember sending like Ed a message being like, "Hey man, you're a Phillies fan," like, and then I just decided, I was like, all right, well, let me start doing this with my, horrendous webcam with like the worst audio of all time, talking through a jug. It probably sounded like,
You beat me to it. You were talking through a jug. Dang it. You beat me to it. Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how it got started. And then I just kind of expanded on, more cards and stuff like that. And
so,
Mike, do you and Ed live close together? Fairly close?
Yeah, he's probably like 20 minutes away or so.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's one of the worst things of this last year, like everything that's going on. Missing all these opportunities to meet up and like do collaborative videos with fellow YouTubers. No national, obviously, this past year. Even like the local shows, their Philly show, which is a regional show. It's pretty big. I mean, at this point, there's probably like 10 guys who, are involved somehow in YouTube that I'm thinking, I guess last February was the last one. And, met up with a bunch of people there and now, have a hard time doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
Do you see that Philly might be opening up by the spring where you can maybe catch it, do a show again finally? Do you see it like?
The upcoming Philly show that's scheduled for March was already postponed. So they say they're going to try and do a special. They do it 3 times a year, usually like March, either late February, early March, and then September, December. They said they're going to try and fit one into like June or July, but, we'll see if that happens or not. There's supposed to be a local mall show in a couple weeks, but, that's something with like 10, 12 dealers. Definitely worth checking out. Cool to check out, but obviously not the scope of one of the bigger shows with, 200 dealer tables.
You see the pictures from the Dallas show they just had?
I saw a little bit. Looked pretty big.
Slammed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, with the way things are going card wise, like I can't even like fathom like something like the National, like they're gonna sell out of tickets or something. Like I don't even know what to expect. I mean, when you got dozens of guys running around to every Target and Walmart on a daily basis, and that's just before they open. Like God knows how many come in throughout the day. I mean, the hobby.
Now.
I want to say the hobby is booming. I don't know. It's obviously because of elevated prices. My concern or question is going to be how many people are actually going to remain collecting if and when eventually things calm down a little bit. So obviously that's we all know that's what's driving a big part of the serious interest in the hobby right now is, how hot things have been price wise. So
yeah, you don't know how these guys that have deep pockets come in as investors and just get tired at one point and say, okay, that was fun. Let's move on to something else and stump this stuff.
And Micah will be waiting in the wings when they're ready to sell. He'll be like, yes, go ahead and drop it. I will be more than happy to get it from you. So, yes.
I mean, I've been hitting up like Sportline. I just buy like random dollar cards and stuff like crazy lately.
That's what I've been doing too. That's
stuff
exactly
like that. And that's another reason I've pushed more towards like some of the vintage and pre-war stuff for the Phillies collection. Because I'm like, I like collecting other modern rookies and such, but I'm not paying like $300 for a refractor of a guy who's, just destined to not be that good ultimately.
right.
And
I agree.
to break stuff is just tough. Like I always enjoyed breaking stuff, but I kind of calmed down on the breaking stuff until my dad actually got a little more back in. We collected and did stuff together for years, and he phased out of it, and then he retired and got bored and kind of knew I was involved in cards, and then he gets bored and is able to afford boxes sometimes, and convinces me to open stuff with them. But now, like, prices are so ridiculous. Pre-sales for 2021 tops, $130. Hobby box, it's usually like a $60 box. So
Oh my gosh.
we'll see if there'll be any breaking going on. Try and grab some blasters. Maybe that will be able to be found. We'll see.
Well, other people probably don't know this, but Mike and I talked on the phone maybe about a month or two ago, and he was telling me about an experience he had in Philadelphia with guys like huddled around a lady trying to get boxes put in like a Target or a Walmart or wherever you said you would at, and you're like, it's not even worth it. Like, you're not even gonna go up to it because there's already like people like like blood in the water, like sharks going towards it and whatnot. And a couple of weeks ago, I was at a Meijer, which is like a Walmart or whatnot around here in Indiana. And I go down the ball card aisle in the Meijer, and there was one other guy there. It was probably like 25, 26 years old, like somewhere in the mid-20s. And like he sees me coming around the corner, and all of a sudden he starts trying to grab all the wax because he thinks I'm going to grab it and take it away from him. So he starts like, because he like had like this strategically placed thing, like this is going for 80 online, this is going for 40. You could tell like he had like piles like everywhere. And I went up to him I didn't even know what he was doing. I just went over there and started grabbing stuff right in front of him, like his stuff he had in piles. And I was just grabbing it and like putting it in my cart. And you could tell he didn't know what to do or what to say. And I'm like, I'm not even playing these games with you jagoffs, man. I'm like, I'm grabbing the stuff and I'm leaving and with my stuff in my cart. I know what you're doing here because you got your phone out, you're like scanning and checking the prices of stuff. And I'm just like, I'm going, But I mean, it's like what Michael was saying. It's like, it's just crazy. And, prices on hobbies are going to get ridiculous. So the only way you can, even if you want to enjoy it, is going retail. Because, I mean, it sounds like you're going to end up having to sell a kidney in 2021 to afford anything.
And baseball,
and you only got two of those.
Baseball stuff is cheap compared to some of this other stuff. Like I see I'm not a basketball guy, but I see like prices of stuff. I'm like why? And like,
right.
I mean, football stuff. Like I enjoy the NFL. I enjoy watching games. I'd like to collect more of it. It's just I never, you can only do so much. So I've stuck mostly with baseball, but I would usually open a couple boxes of Donruss Optic every year. And like they'd be like $70, $80 a hobby box. I think even last year I bought a box. I think I opened it on the Super Bowl. Paid like $85 for it, and I got it at a good price. And like this year, I'm like, I see like pre-sales for like $600 or $800 something. I was like,
what?
I'm like, why? Like you're just destined to take a beating. Like there's no point.
Oh my gosh! I think we just should get Ray to sell one of his Ichiro cards, and then he can split a case between all of us.
and then we can sell that stuff and not be able to afford that Ichiro card.
Right, exactly. We can't ever buy it back. We'll be totally busted after the end of it for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. I heard about all that stuff going on with the retail, and it was I guess last March. I heard all about it, and I went to a Target. And I was just in that area. It's a good 25-minute drive to a Target for me, and I just happened to be in the area, and I'm like, I'll swing by to see what they have. And the lady was just putting everything on the shelf. Nobody was there. And she looked at me, she goes, well, go ahead and take it all. I'm like, what? I was like, I just want to get a couple boxes and 2 blister packs, for me and my son to open. She's like, that's it? I'm like, yeah. And I told her I heard the stories, and she started going on about people following her, wanting her phone number, offering to split their profits with her and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, I heard all about it. And she was, she had to have somebody escort her to her car because she was worried about somebody, jumping her. And I'm just like, it was crazy.
It's out of control, and it gets worse. I think it gets worse by the week because I mean, in a way, it's cool to see the hobby get attention, but the more articles that are on CNBC or ESPN or Sports Illustrated now, like now there's a new podcast coming out for like the Ringer Network, which is Bill Simmons, who's real popular in the podcast world. So now there's like a sports card podcast on there, which it's just more and more attention. Like, I mean, as fun as it is to see the hobby you enjoy get attention, it just brings in more and more people, especially, if they either think or know that they can make a buck on it. They're going to be interested, they're going to show interest, and that just leaves less for the rest.
Right.
It's everywhere too. I'm wearing my West Virginia hat. My daughter went to school there last semester, and you'd drive down there and you'd find a Walmart out in the middle of nowhere in the country, thinking, oh, there's going to be all kinds of cards here. No one even knows about it. You go in there and they're empty. It's like, geez, are you kidding me? Like, but it's what you said, Michael. Maybe they're seeing it on the news and TV. It doesn't matter where you are, and eBay's everywhere, so you just can't find it. And I mean, it's not a big deal for me because I'm not a huge breaker anyways, but it's still fun once in a while to pick something up.
I mean, in years past, I would always, so obviously retail is distributed by vendors. They come in, and so they're not really worried about the release date. So I remember in past years running out to like a Target like a day or two before Series 1 would drop, just because you'd be able to get the box, a day or two before it would be officially released. I mean, like now, forget it. Just guys are going to buy it all because it'll be going for more. But I mean, Topps was never hard to find. It was just exciting to get it. Always fun to rip that first pack of the year, kind of like the unofficial trading card opening day for baseball season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I haven't bought a wax box in years, but spending $20 on a blaster is far different than spending $150 to $200 on a wax box that you don't know what you're going to get. So throwing $20 down was, it was always fun just to open something, a new product or something.
I think the new strategy
now die, so I'm going to take off here. But
all right, Don.
Me. It was a blast.
Yeah, Don.
Good seeing you guys.
No, thank you,
nice
sir.
meeting you. Take care, Don.
Hey, congratulations on your kid's 19-0 birthday. Take care.
All right, thank you.
So, man. So I think the strategy, Mike, for me is that I'm gonna like try to hire like an 8-year-old kid to like go in and like get boxes for me, because it's gonna be hard to say no to him than like a 42-year-old Jason. So I'm gonna hire like an 8-year-old kid from like my son's school and be like, hey, I'm gonna give you $100. I need you to go in there with all those like scary dudes and go load a card up on a bunch of wax for everybody, and I'll give you like a shiny quarter at the end of the transaction, because I don't think it's gonna happen any other way. So I mean, you gotta come up. We gotta strategize, people. We gotta strategize.
Oh man, some of the guys chasing this stuff will run that 8-year-old right over. So make sure he's got
right.
I'm sure some guys are already doing that.
Football helmet.
Tell him to stop on their ankles first. Strike first.
Yeah.
I'm sure some guys are already doing that.
Oh, I'm sure. But so let me ask you, Michael, real quickly, because you are correct. I think anybody who watches your channel any length of time, one of the things they can count on in a My Go channel is you're gonna break product. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have something you're gonna show a few times a week or every couple of weeks where you're opening either packs or boxes or whatever. But I want to say, have you found that, because like you said, you're going through the eBay listings, or you're doing like, singles and things recently, have you seen your channel at all kind of like change a little bit of like the people watching at all, because you're not breaking as much stuff and you're showing Puddinhead Jones and things like that instead, where that might be more of a smaller group of people? Or do you still find that you're still getting the same interactions and comments and subs or whatever as you were before, because it's just not available to people like ourselves, like normal everyday Joes? You just can't find that stuff everywhere.
I mean, I think a lot of the people who have been around are still around, but I would definitely say, without examining the numbers, I think views and stuff like that are down for me. But I also am kind of inconsistent. I'll make 4 videos one week, and then maybe it'll be a couple weeks where I don't get something out. It's obviously been a crazy year and such. I haven't really broken as much as I would in the past, and maybe not as quickly as things come out, because obviously people sometimes want to see stuff, the day it's released and such. And I know the grading card reveals, grading submissions, people are really into, but I'm not sitting there making it right now. If you want to attract attention, if that's your sole goal, you want to do investing stuff and all that kind of stuff. And I really haven't gotten too involved in that. So I'm not too worried about it at this point. I'm not worried about just adding views and subscribers. It's more about having a good time and it being, more hobby wise for me.
I don't know from personal experience or anything, but if you add Phil to your channel, Mike, it may cause your channel to go up in like viewership and subs. Just saying, if your 6K subs is getting a little bit, long in the tooth, just throw Phil on there and you'll be like set with a rocket to your back. So
yeah, I mean, we'll see. Maybe I'll have to do that to spark some interest.
Right. So hey Ray, let me ask you. I know that you said that you're kind of done collecting Ichiro post 2020 because of how ridiculous things get. I want to ask this also to Mike Y and Mike O both, but I'll start with you. So for you to just say enough's enough with making every card of a player that's been retired and not go down that rabbit hole. Where do you you're cutting the line at 2020. So where do you focus now specifically? Because there's so much to get for a player like Ichiro anyways. Do you have a certain strategy that you're looking to do to try to hone in on in 2021 to kind of look with what there is out there?
Well, according to Trading Card Database, I think he has like 15,000 cards. So, I mean, I've got 3,305, or I've added some more since then, but from my last count. But obviously, I've got a ton of cards I'm missing. But like the moments and milestones, that just makes my head hurt. So, I mean, I got a handful, but I'm not going to proceed with those. But there's stuff I'm missing. So, unfortunately, some of the stuff I'm missing, it just doesn't show up. Like I was looking like the Topps Heritage Chrome Black Refractors are some of my favorite cards ever, and but they're rare, so you got everybody competing for those, set collectors and everything else. So I'm only missing one, but I went back and like the last one that sold, there's only been I think 7 that have sold since 2000 and was 2005, but since 2004 only 7 have sold, and the last one sold was like in 2009. So again, that's the last card I need to complete for all of the black refractors. But I'm always trying to put those runs together, different parallels, rainbows. Some of the older 101s I don't think I'll ever see, or if they do, now I won't be able to afford them. But that stuff, there's always gaps to fill in, here and there, stuff I've overlooked and just passed on to go to different things. So it gives me a chance to reflect back on different things and pick up fill different spots.
Talking about filling in holes. What's up, Stove?
What's up, Mark?
I've just been hanging out.
I didn't realize you were there. I thought you disappeared. Like your camera showed that you disappeared when I clicked on it, and I'm like, oh, I guess you were like, I'm shaving naked in my shower again. I can't go live, so
I would still get on if that was the case.
So what about? So let me ask you, Mike, why real quick? I mean, when do you ever get to a point, because I know you like to collect your Dodgers or whatever, maybe some of them obviously have retired and moved on. Do you ever say, like, I'm just going to collect their playing years cards, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of collecting every card of Kirk Gibson or Fernando Valenzuela that was produced after the fact? Or do you just kind of like collect when you just try to get as many as you can get?
I don't know. I've got this really weird thing that, like, Fernando Valenzuela, for example. If he's not in the Dodger uniform, I don't want the card.
Why
Yeah.
not? Why would you not want one of the most beautiful Fernando Valenzuela cards ever? The Fleer Flare featured in the Phillies uniform at the tail end of his career.
This is really well, right. So I'll give you another example. If Clayton Kershaw ever got traded, not that he ever will, he's going to retire a Dodger. But if he ever got traded, I don't want. It's just some really weird thing that I just don't want it. I don't know why. If he's in Dodger uniform, great. Of course, I'm going to pick it up.
Yeah.
I don't know how true this is, but I heard the story that said Jackie Robinson retired because the Dodgers told him they were going to trade him to the Giants. And if Jackie Robinson was ever in Giants uniform, I don't want the card. I don't know. It's just some weird pet peeve that I have that I think Jesse's here. I don't know if maybe he can, put some 2 cents in it or whatever. But if they're in any other uniform, I don't know. It's just something I don't want it. I won't pick it up. If he's in a Dodger uniform or Lakers uniform, sure. I don't know. It's just one of those weird things that if it's got to be in the team that I want.
Well, let's be honest. To piggyback off that, because Mike O is notorious for talking about like Fernando Valenzuela or Pedro Martinez.
Andy Van Slyke with the Phillies at the end.
Right.
I love that stuff. It's awesome.
Andy Van Slyke or Pedro Martinez or whatever, trying to find them in their like one card that they might be in with the Phillies uniform, and you don't hear and that's the card you're looking for. So I mean, Mike? Would you say that's the same thing for you? Like you try not to go down rabbit holes of certain players and other teams. Like you just want to get the card of them with the Phillies, and you're like, I'm done. I don't need any other cards. That's the card I'm looking for.
I mean, I'd say that's more so. It's with autographs. I like to collect. It's one of those things. I'm not going to go like bonkers with trying to get every single card, but I will seek out, especially like the guys I remember, like as a kid, like when Dale Murphy became a Philly, I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I mean, I was young at the time, so I didn't realize, he's at the end. But even like Fernando Valenzuela, it was just like cool to see him. He actually pitched pretty well for the Phillies, considering and Pedro and stuff like that. It's fun because it's one of those. One, it's they're in a Phillies uniform, which I collect, but also like those fun memories of that oddball.
Did you get your Pedro? Did you get your Pedro Phillies autograph yet?
Yeah, he was in Dynasty actually this year and last year, but I was able to get last year's. So
nice,
pretty neat card.
Yeah, like Gary's saying in the chat, I need to get my Ken Griffey Jr. White Sox auto.
Have they released one?
I don't know.
I remember seeing like one card of like Topps Update, like 2008 or 2007, whatever year it was. He's like sitting on the dugout, like steps in a White Sox uniform.
He was fat.
And I'm like, right. And Fat Griffey. And I'm like, it was like the most jarring thing. It was like so jarring to see that. I'm like, it's so weird.
I mean,
like,
one of my recent SGC reveals, I showed off a Mike Piazza Marlins card. So like those oddball cards sometimes are super funny, but I remember I had that for years. Like, I think it was like a variation in whatever it was, 98 Upper Deck or something. They made him as a Met, and then they did like the Marlin because he was there for like a week.
Yeah, and so let me ask you. I'll ask you this, Mark Stove Sports, Stove Investor, Stove Flipper.
Formal question.
Right, yeah. It's like you're like the prince of the YouTube community, changing your name. So, is there a certain player that played for your precious White Sox that maybe people don't realize that played for the White Sox for a hot minute that you think's pretty hilarious that you don't think about? Like kind of like the King Griffey Jr. That might have been the best one actually, but is there another guy?
Yeah,
that people might forget.
Yeah, I got to think about it for a minute, but I know I'll think of some.
Right.
They kind of famously will. They had a thing going for a while where they would trade away prospects like right at the end of the season to get some like the ghost and shell of some player as a rental, and they still wouldn't make the playoffs. I know. Who did they trade for? They made a push in like 2012. Manny Ramirez. They traded for him right at the end of the season and still missed the playoffs. And it was just like a complete waste of time. And I don't know who they gave up for him.
I
But
have absolutely zero memory of Manny Ramirez being a shit on
Right.
the White
He
Sox.
did.
Because if he has a card, I'm gonna have to go get one.
Yeah, Manny. Euclid played for the White Sox, and that's actually kind of a pain in the ass
Oh,
because
John Kruk. Yeah, Big Scott just mentioned
Well,
John Kruk wrapped things up with the White
he
Sox.
retired
Right?
with the White Sox, and I want to say the story there was he got a hit to bring his career average exactly to 300, and he told the coach if he got a hit, he was going to retire on the spot at 300, and he
Walked
got a
off
hit,
the
and
field.
they took him out of the game. Kevin Euclid.
Really?
Kevin Euclid played a season with the White Sox, and he has like an SSP that I've never seen come up online. Like I've never seen it because it's probably you're not going to put SSP. If you have a Kevin Euclid White Sox card, it's going in the bin, like the garbage or like some 20,000 count box, So like I need that card for my White Sox master set, and I've never seen it.
Like Victor said, he played like 12 games for the. Oh, he played for the Yankees for 12 games. Do you even know how many games Euclid played for the White Sox? If he even played?
No, he played. He played.
Like how many games do you think? It wasn't a lot, was it?
Yeah, he played. He played a better part of a season.
Okay.
He played 80 games in 2012.
Okay, so there are definitely some cards of him floating around then.
Yeah, well, he was put in. I think Topps update is like an SSP or something. It's a.
Oh, okay, so that's the only card you're aware of.
Yeah, it's like super rare and it's like annoying, because it'll be tough to find that.
What year is that, Mark?
2012.
I think if you just go on your channel, like there's a lot of guys in the community who just say, I'm really wanting to work on like a 1952 top set this year. So if anybody wants to help me, just, I'll give you my address. You can just, I'm looking for like a Mickey Mantle, I'm throwing it out there. But maybe you could do that.
Is that one of those sparkle variations or something?
So I think there's a base one and then there's like an SSP. There's like
sparkle
a really,
or something.
I don't think it's a sparkle one. Andrew Jones, yeah. See, they did this all the time. They also in 2004 they traded. I remember at the end of the season they traded for somebody pretty funny, Robbie Alomar. And when they traded for him, the headline of the Chicago Tribune for the sports section was "World Serious." Like, really? I mean, to be fair, I was like excited at the time, but it didn't work out. It didn't work out.
So what you're saying is it wasn't a good investment.
It was not a good investment. The White Sox are not known for making good investments.
Well, they're doing okay with young players the last couple of years, so we'll see how things shake out this coming year.
Just imagine if they didn't,
Tatis for James Shields. You just got to bring it up, don't you? You just have to bring it up. Like, I know what you're going to say.
I mean, just saying.
I texted
at least he has a nice first Bowman Chrome card.
Yeah, that's true. See, I don't like that. Like it would just hurt me every time to look at that. I texted my buddy today. I said, "Imagine if the White Sox had Tatis. Like, could you imagine that, dude? They would be, man. It would be tough. It'd be tough to stop them."
Oh man, dude. So I always think, like, let me ask you this, Ray, real quick, because I think you'll probably agree with me. Everybody does. When you think of Ichiro, you really think of him with the Seattle Mariners. I mean, yeah, he had a couple years with the Yankees. He had a few years with the Marlins. But, when people think of like the Ichiro that people think of, it's like with the Mariners. So when you're collecting Ichiro, are you looking predominantly Mariners cards, or you look for anything? But where do you usually fall?
I look through any of them, anything from of course Japanese years don't count, but 2001 to 2020, anything, any team. But that was hard. That was hard seeing him so long in that Mariners uniform, and then I mean, that same weekend they were playing the Yankees, and, at home, and all of a sudden, boom, traded. The very next day, he's playing with the Yankees against his team at home. It was just him and Pinstripes was just, I mean, I thought about like, well, what am I going to do with my collection? But I decided to just keep pushing through, and
I
yeah,
wish
it
you
was
would
tough.
have gave it
It was tough.
So
It was tough.
what about you, Mike? Why, like, you have a lot of guys that come in and out of the Dodgers. Has there ever been a guy like kind of like what Ray was saying that like it was really kind of hard for him to get used to the fact that Ichiro left the Mariners and went on to somewhere else? Is there a Dodger that you like really loved and you hate seeing them show up in another uniform? You're like, why did you leave? Don't do this to me. I invested in you.
Mike Piazza.
Yeah, I would say Mike Piazza.
I know it was a business decision, but I understand Piazza getting upset. He's getting traded, but still, if he's in a Mets uniform, I don't want it.
When I think of Mike Piazza, I think Mets, just because of the World Series.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I don't want Mike Piazza in a Mets uniform.
Yeah, when Clemens chucked the broken bat at him, that's like the top Mike Piazza memory. And after September 11th, I think he hit a home run or something
against the Braves.
I saw him hit a home run at the All-Star game in '96 in Philadelphia.
That's awesome. What about you, Mike? I mean, is there a Philly that you was really heartbroken when you saw him leave, either as a kid growing up or as an adult that you invested in, as far as like not money but just time and really following their career, and then they just up and leave Philly and like go somewhere else?
I mean, it's always disappointing when you lose a favorite player and such, but collecting wise, I'll still collect. Definitely disappointed back in the day when your boy Scotty Rowland got shipped off to St. Louis. And it wasn't even so much, and that was like in the time where a year or two before that they traded Kurt Schilling and such. It's not so much that they had to move the player, it's the fact that they notoriously, traded him for garbage. So didn't really work out. You trade Kurt Schilling, who goes on and wins the World Series immediately, and you get Omar Dahl, who's coming off a 20-loss season and then loses like 18 the next year. It's like, what's going on here,
Right.
Scott Rowland, I remember they traded. They got Placido Polanco, who was a nice player, and then they got Mike Timlin because they said, well, he has value, and the trade deadline was like 2 days later, and they thought they were going to flip him because he was a solid relief pitcher, and then they just didn't flip him for another prospect. So you had an okay reliever, finish out the season and leave as a free agent. It was like, what was the point of this?
What about you, Mark? Is there a player for the White Sox that you hate seeing leave? I mean, I would assume it's probably Frank Thomas, but maybe I'm wrong.
I thought Stofe the Flipper was now collecting exclusively Frank Thomas, Toronto Blue Jays, and Oakland Athletics cards.
Dude, whatever's going to bring in the dough, flip it. That's all that matters.
Yeah, right there, making it rain.
But the green. Well, it did hurt me when Frank left the team, but the sting was lessened by the fact that the White Sox were coming off a World Series title, and he actually didn't appear in the playoffs because he was hurt. So it's kind of like it kind of made sense for some reason. And actually, for my birthday, it was his first game back against the White Sox when he was with the A's, and we had a problem picking up our tickets. And we missed his first at bat, which of course was a home run. and then we get in the game, and then he hits another home run, and the stadium was like, I've never seen so many home fans cheering for an opposing player. It was awesome. It was so awesome.
What's with the problems with tickets in Chicago White Sox games? Because at the National a few years ago, like a group of us, Tops 85, 401, number of others.
Yeah.
Like, we couldn't get in the freaking stadium. Like I remember we had tickets at Will Call. It took us like 2 innings to get our tickets.
Normally they get really confused when people show up and like alarms go off when fans show up and they're like, someone's here. I don't know why they're there. I think they're trying to rob us. Just like tell them we don't have anything.
To steal the hot dogs.
Dude, we got good food, man. That's one consistent thing. We have good food. We're always like at the top of the list. I don't know. This was like in the dark ages of the internet. This is 2006. So like my girlfriend bought them through like some shady like ticket broker or something, and it's like these tickets, like you could have gotten these cheap. But to answer your question, the first one that comes to mind for me, the most painful, was seeing Mark Burley in a game not wearing a White Sox uniform. That was like a dagger through my heart. That one hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Then you felt a little better once you got a slab Allen and Ginter autograph of Mark.
That's
Burley,
right, dude. I love. I submitted that through you. I love that card. That was like totally a Mike O thing. Like I always see your Ginter with the I'm holding a Sharpie actually with like
There you
the
go.
big bold autograph. Man, those I love that card.
That is awesome. So we talked about a player that really broke your heart leaving. So let me ask you about a player that came to your team that gave you like excitement and kind of got you rejuvenated. You know, I'll start with Mike O and work our way back around. Like I would like to think it's Bryce Harper. Maybe I'm wrong, but who's a player that showed up with Philadelphia Phillies who was not an original Philly that got you excited as a fan, not as a collector?
I mean, Bryce Harper was certainly a big, exciting pickup for sure.
Yeah, I bet it was. That was great.
They were talking about
For you.
they were going to sign one of these big guys. So that was obviously, but I mean, really during like the whole, when they were actually good run from 07 to 2011, you kind of got very spoiled by the fact that they would make a major move at the deadline every year. And then in the offseason, the one year they picked up Roy Halladay, which obviously worked out really well. His first 2 years, he was incredible. Won Cy Youngs, pitched no hitters, postseason no hitter, perfect game. So I'll go ahead and go with, I guess, good old Roy Halladay because it was, pretty exciting to have that every 5 days.
What about you, Mike? Why? Let's go with you. Like, was there a guy that got picked up for the Dodgers that you got really excited about? They picked up and was like, man, I'm so pumped with this addition to my Dodgers.
It's either Manny Machado or Manny Ramirez.
One of the Mannys.
It's probably hard to keep track as a Dodgers fan because it's just like
I know, right?
It's a revolving door.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. I thought you were going to say Jackie Robinson.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, I don't know. Machado seems to have, he's got talent, but he's just lazy. And he's kind of dirty, too. So just some of the playoff stuff he was doing a couple years ago was kind of disheartening, I guess. He's got all the talent, but he's just lazy. Only plays when he wants to. So I want to go Machado.
You guys just had to pick the two players that the White Sox were going for, and I was more excited than ever for both of them, and they just both ripped my heart out. Yeah. Like, well, if we didn't get Harper,
What about you, Ray? I know you said you grew up as a Braves fan. So is there a player that you were excited they brought in, and then as a player that you were really sad to see leave as a Brave fan growing up, or maybe still today?
The card hobbyist said it, with Maddox coming in the 90s there with the Braves.
Yeah.
That was like that missing link that they needed to really push them over the top.
Completely agree. What about a player that you saw leave that was hard to see leave?
I mean, he left, but, I always liked Andrew Jones. He was a hell of a defensive player and spark in the playoffs all the time. And it was hard to see him leave. So hard to see him in a different uniform.
Yeah, that's true. Because he ended up going. Where did he end up going? Like after that, like
I think he went to the White Sox for a while. I think.
Right.
Yeah, he sucked. We always get the fat version of the guys, like Fat Manny Ramirez, Fat Andrew Jones, Fat Griffey. Like get all the fat old guys.
Well, you guys got the good food.
We do.
Yeah, it goes back to the food you mentioned that was so delicious.
I think you just figured it out. That's kind of like a puzzle. I just said horrible.
You're like, there's the piece. I need it right there.
Yeah, exactly.
History-wise, the Phillies are well known for getting the worst of the brothers for some reason.
Yeah.
Mike Maddox instead of Greg Maddox, Dom DiMaggio, freaking who the heck, Jeremy Giambi, like all the time. It's like, what are you doing?
Hey, he was good in Moneyball.
Yeah, and he got traded to the Phillies in that movie because he was too busy at the strip clubs or whatever was going on. I forget. He actually homered in his first 2 at-bats with the Phillies, and then, it was straight down to hitting in the 100s after that.
He didn't even get to the Mendoza line then. So I was down. So what about you, Mark? A player that you were glad the White Sox had got?
For some reason, the time thinking back that I remember so vividly is sitting shotgun in my friend's minivan in 2004, listening to ESPN 1000, and the Sox traded Miguel Olivo for Freddie Garcia, and me and my friend were so hyped. We were like high-fiving and stuff, and that ended up being a big part of their World Series win. Like he was a workhorse. So,
and then after that, you flipped him to the Phillies. He was horrendous in Philadelphia.
Yeah, he was bad.
Probably signed a minor league deal somewhere else.
What did we get for him though? Probably nothing.
I think you got like Gavin Floyd. He was all right for a couple of years.
Didn't he go
Andrew
to the Phillies too? Didn't Gavin Floyd go to the Phillies too?
Well, he was like their big prospect back in the day.
I'm
they
sorry.
They drafted him and
Gotcha.
Cole Hamels like back-to-back years. Hamels worked out pretty well.
Gotcha.
Floyd ended up on a few different teams.
Floyd was good for a few years, but nothing even close. Yeah.
I mean, he was better than Phillies Freddie Garcia. I remember being at the autograph charity event, and they're like, hey, you want to go meet Freddie Garcia? Like, they're pushing you to go, like, no donation required. Like, we're embarrassed to be sitting there bored to death. Like, I'm like, I guess. Like, here, sign this, like, ticket stub. Like, I don't have anything for you. I'm sorry that your ERA is 8.5.
Freddie Garcia got popped. I think it was the World Baseball Classic. He failed a drug test, and everyone's like, "Oh, busted!" And it was marijuana, and he was like, "Yeah, I did it." Like, yeah. And everyone's like, "Well, that makes sense. He looks stoned all the time. Like, he was probably stoned when he was on the mound all the time."
Yeah. Who was the guy? Who was the Pirates guy that was that threw a no-hitter?
Doc Ellis.
Doc Ellis, yeah, he was the Doc Ellis of the White Sox.
Dude, that Doc Ellis story, like every year on the anniversary, like I feel like new things come out about it. And I remember, I think there's a documentary on it that was so good. I forget what it's called. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah,
that like they couldn't find him, and he was like at the beach in San Diego or something, and they like went out there, and they're like, "Dude, you're supposed to pitch today," and he said, I forget what he said, but it was like so legendary. He's like, "I thought today was tomorrow or something," and they're like,
"I thought today was tomorrow."
Yeah, he said something like that. Like, we're fucked. You gotta look it up. It was so funny.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome. So let me ask: each one of you guys have legendary, I think, managers for your team. You have, Tony La Russa, you have Bobby Cox, you have, Tommy Lasorda, Charlie Manuel, for your all's for your all's teams. I mean, do you all think a lot of these guys get enough credit for like the teams they put together and like make runs, at playoffs and World Series? Because, a lot of times I think they get overlooked. But, I think, I know Mike O talks a lot about, Charlie Manuel on his channel because of his connection to the Phillies and a player and all that. But I think like sometimes we overlook those guys. Like, this past year, Don Mattingly, taking the Marlins, who were like pathetic over the years, and like actually getting Manager of the Year award, this past year. So, I mean, how much do you think the manager has to do in modern day baseball with the success of the team?
I think a ton. I mean, if it wasn't for Bobby Cox, what he accomplished with the Braves, I mean, he wouldn't be a Hall of Famer. So, I mean, I think he did a great job. I mean, of course, they only won one World Series during that whole stretch, but I mean, they were always right there. They were always in contention.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
that's what everybody wants, just a chance to be there. So I mean, I thought he did a great job.
I think you forgot to mention the most legendary Phillies manager. I think you skipped. I can't believe you skipped him over.
Oh,
You said Charlie Manuel.
right?
You're missing the most legendary
The
one.
one true coconut.
Are you talking about the? Yeah, you're talking about the guy who's with the Angels now or whatever.
Gabe Kapler. It was just
Gabe
slow
Kapler,
and
yeah.
awkward. It was just a slow and awkward lead up to playing Eds.
The one true coconut.
The one true coconut, right? Yeah, the one true coconut.
Dude, that's one of my favorite videos in the history of our community, dude. Like how like amped up he is, and how he's like barely keeping it together. Jen,
Yeah, Ed gets so fired up about it. Yes.
I think Ed misses Gabe a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
I don't know. The analytics say the manager is worth like 2 wins or something like that. That doesn't pass the sniff test to me. Like that doesn't seem right. Just like Ray was saying, like I feel like I don't know, like the White Sox, man. I learned last year not what a good manager can do, but what a bad manager can do. At the worst possible time, he can like single-handedly lose a game. Like I said before the game, not to get ranting about something that literally nobody else besides me or probably Gary cares about, but like I said to my friend, if Carlos Rodon appears in this game, if they even tell him what time the game is, that's the end. That's the end. They got to fire him. And luckily they actually did fire him and then decided to hire the ghost of Tony La Russa. Like that
Who
makes
proceeded to get like arrested for being drunk, right? Like,
Hey man, you got a Hall of Fame manager now, who hopefully finally decides to maybe hire a car service or something.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to lose his license to like senility or another DUI next. I think it's 50-50.
Oh my god.
Mark, who do you think their favorite manager was? Ozzie Guillen?
It's got to be Ozzie, dude. Like in my lifetime, so like World Series title automatically does it. And Ozzie was just so much fun. Like he was so much fun. He, I don't know how bright of a baseball mind he was or whatever, but he was just such a great time. And you can't deny the fact that like when that microphone is on that guy, like you're going to listen. You know what I mean? Love him or hate him, you're going to listen.
Yeah,
speaking of Ozzie Guillen, I think this was something he said, but Dustin Pedroia retired today. Didn't he call him like a jockey or something? Like
he probably
he said something weird. I remember, like, whenever Pedroia was coming up or whatever, something bizarre. He's like, God, like, yeah, he's a little jockey or something. I don't know what the hell he was talking about, but
my favorite
I might have to look that up.
My favorite Ozzie Guillen story in Chicago was he kept calling Jay Mariotti, who is a famously like bad sports writer. This guy is such a tool. He called him an FAG like a bunch. And it's like, this was back in 2005, which is like the dark ages, but like he called him that like publicly and things went really bad for him. He got suspended by the MLB. He got sent to sensitivity training. And then like the next week, he was literally leading the gay pride parade in Chicago. He was like the grand marshal or whatever in the front of it just to prove that he's not homophobic or whatever. And they were like celebrating him. It was so funny.
He's also notorious when they asked why he wasn't playing as white players. Remember, I don't know. He goes, they can't handle the sun.
Yeah.
That's what he said. He goes, the Latino and black players are better in the sun. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, white players have been playing baseball and football and soccer since, I don't know, the beginning of time.
He was trolling.
He had no filter. I loved it.
Yeah.
He just exactly told you exactly what he thought. Like, he didn't care, like, what the fallout looked like.
when he would call Bobby Jenks in the bullpen, he would go like this, like, give me the fat guy. He would go like this. Fat guy. Look it up, dude. He did it in the World Series. It was awesome. Like, give me the fat guy.
Is he still involved in baseball at all?
Well, the last time I think he was like involved on the field level, he had no filter, and he said that Fidel Castro was a tough son of a bitch as the manager of the Marlins. Like his entire fan base is Cubans that hate Fidel Castro, and he's like, he's a tough son of a bitch. Like, dude,
Whoopsie.
wow, where'd you get that cat? Who'd you steal that from, Jason?
I got it in a cat fight club a couple weeks ago.
I heard you lifted it up with some lady.
Yeah, he's been trying to get up here the whole night, but anyways, don't knock off my phone, please.
I don't know if everyone's familiar with the story, but you have to tell at least an abbreviated version of that story with that cat.
Oh my gosh, Mike, we got Mike Owen here. He's not going to tolerate a story about my stupid cat. He's going to be like, dude, I can't hear you. What? Click, and then just disconnect from the call.
Yeah,
and then immediately he's going to call Mike Baseball Collector and be like, whatever you do, make sure you keep him out of the Hall of Fame. Like, he's talking about cat stories on his channel. Like, what the hell, dude?
Get this guy out of here.
Get him out of here. Exactly. What is this guy thinking? Like, how dare he slumming it with his cat stories with me in here?
Hey, Jason, can I save your clip that you said something about a dog in your last one? I won't repeat what you said, but can I save that?
Yeah, you can do it. Whatever, man.
Okay.
Yeah, you can say whatever clip, dude. I don't care. If I said it publicly, then yeah. I got to be really careful nowadays. I mean, I got a reputation to uphold now.
You want to hear the clip? Because I already have it, but I wasn't going to play it.
Yeah, go ahead and play the clip.
I was fine with it.
Sorry, one more time.
Honestly, I've eaten dog, and I was fine with it.
Yeah, it was true. Yeah, I love it. It was fine. It was good.
But they ate dog.
Yeah, like here's the thing, guys. This is like a PSA to anybody who does live streams with Mark, that he may go back and listen to them and like snip out certain parts of the dialogue. And so if Mike Y or Ray, if you ever want to run for office, just be very careful that, as soon as you hit the campaign trail, some sound clip that you said like 17 years ago might show up and like completely bury you.
I don't do that.
Stove, do you have Ray from Philly's King Griffey PSA handy?
I think this has a shot at a 10. I gave it a 9. Won't be surprised if it's an 8. A 7. It really pissed me off.
But here's another good one that I really like.
I acted like a moron. I admit it. I'm a jackass. I apologize.
Who could that have been?
Look at the phone.
I think I have another one of you actually.
Mark is like the NSA of the hobby community.
Where is it? Oh man, it's one of my favorite ones. It was Mike. It was when you were like really tired and you're doing some like giant PSA reveal. It was just
I remember falling asleep like basically live at like 3 a.m.
Yeah, I do remember that one too. Now that you said that's true.
I felt so bad. I knew I shouldn't have done it, and I just remember like feeling like I'm like everyone waited like 6 months for this stupid order to come back. Like I forced myself to do it. I'm like,
I know.
falling asleep.
I felt bad because you did. That was my first ever return, and I was so excited. And then you showed mine like one of the first ones, and then I went to sleep. And then Bob's like, "Dude, go to 1 hour, 45 minutes, and 15 seconds, and here it is. I got it right here."
1999 Pacific Aurora, Peyton Manning, elite player.
Oh my gosh! What just happened? Okay.
I don't know if you guys heard, but the best part of that clip is right at the end. Just listen right at the end.
1999 Pacific Aurora, Peyton Manning, complete players.
He fell asleep. He fell asleep while announcing the card, and he goes, What?
Oh my god!
I mean, I guess it shows my dedication to
It does. It does.
those out
Yeah.
there.
Hey guys, I gotta head out. It was fun.
Yeah,
All right,
I think
take
I'm
care,
gonna go ahead and call it too, guys. It's been 2 hours exactly, so we'll go ahead and just call it here. So thank
See.
you all so much, Michael, Mike White, Ray, Mark. Thank you so much, guys.
See you guys.
Thank you
Yeah,
guys. Take
see
care.
ya. Take care.
See ya.
We'll do it again. See ya.